Hello and welcome to my shop. My name is Tracy Maxfield. Today we're going to go over setting up a hollow chisel mortiser. Also, a few weeks ago I was working on a piece of furniture and I had this 3/8 inch bit in this machine and I needed a quarter in it, which is still in it right now. But when I took this out, I made a mistake. I didn't have anything. You need to put a block of wood or something other under here when you're removing this, at least until you get them loose and get a hold of them to take them out. Because what I done was I started loosening this up and I let this slip and the whole thing fell out and it landed on one of the the cutter's corner, the corner cutter of it kind of landed in an angle on as it come down and hit this metal, and it burred that up. It messed it up pretty good. And I'm going to show you how I sharpened that. And this is the first time I've not had this machine a real long time, and actually it's the first time that I have sharpened one of these. But it feels good. It feels sharp. I'm fixing to put it in the machine and go over how I set this thing up to cut mortises, and also show you how I sharpen this, and hopefully it works. We'll find out together. First I'm going to show you how I sharpen this. I don't know how well you can see this on camera, but that corner right there on top is burred over from the fall that it took. Now this is a trend diamond stone. This is 1000 grit side, and first thing I do is just try to relieve that burr on the outside of both edges, both corners of that one corner, both sides of that corner. And I'm just putting light pressure on it and raking across the stone, just focusing and concentrating on relieving that burr, getting that all back down flush. And then I add some honing solution to the stone, and then start taking down or smoothing out. Of course, there was a lot of mill marks still in this where this bit, I'm assuming, has never been, I got it with the machine, I'm assuming it has never been sharpened. Didn't appear to have been anyway. But I started taking down the outsides, just sharpening just the outside of it all the way around, and tried to take an equal amount of strokes from each side to try to keep the bit as square and even as possible. And I'm just applying light, moderate pressure to this. There is tools that are made that are specifically made for sharpening hollow chisels. I didn't have that. I'm going to get one, but I didn't have that to start out with. So what I done was took some plumber's abrasive sandcloth. It's a 120 grit aluminum oxide, and I rolled that up, just tore off a small piece of it and rolled it up and made a cylinder out of it, and used that and just scrubbed the inside of this and kept feeling the edge and paying real close attention to my angle, and just real small strokes. But this actually did work to the point of I had a small burr started on the outside of this chisel. Now I don't know how well it's going to hold its edge, because I would assume these are probably pretty cheap chisels, but it's all I've got for now. But you can sharpen these with some things that you have laying around the shop. I did try first, was going to try a chainsaw, I think it's 5/32 chainsaw chisel or a file, but for the angle of the slope on the cutters, I was unable to, because there's like 3/4 of an inch or so of the end of the file that doesn't have any teeth on it, before you would bottom out in the side of the chisel inside there before you could get deep enough that the actual file teeth itself would get to that angle. So I was unable to use that. This is the only thing that I could find around the shop that I could actually get in there. Now I do have a Dremel with some grinding tools on it, but I was kind of leery about using that, afraid it might be too aggressive and take too much away at one time, so I kind of stayed clear of that. And then I did go back to the stone to relieve that burr. And then I sharpened the auger bit that goes up inside of this chisel. The brad point on this is made kind of like a triangle, has 3 sides to it, and what I've done was just polished up each side of that. Watching my file and making sure that I kept it flat with that angle that was in it, and just polished those up. And then I repositioned the bit in the vise, getting it at a comfortable position to sharpen the cutter on it. This is actually the cutter portion of the bit that actually cuts out the hole. And I just maintained that same angle that was already on it and just sharpened that up some. And there's also a cutter on the side of this bit that actually cuts those fibers off, even making a good round hole as it's the bit's augering down through the material. And I took the same file again and sharpened the edge of this, the cutter side of this. First we're going to take this 1/4 inch bit out of this. And to do that on this machine, now a lot of machines are different. Some has a little door, it's on a hinge, it will swing open on both sides or drop down. This one just has 2 set screws with finger knobs on it. And this is grooved to receive those knobs, and it just kind of pressure fits against it. Alright, the next thing, and this is where I messed that other bit up, was taking it out. When I loosened this up, I didn't catch it, and it just fell down and hit this machine, hit this cast iron down here. So what I'm going to do is just put a block of wood under it. That should save the damage. And so far, anything that I've had to adjust on this, it takes a 4, 5, and 6 millimeters, so it's all metric, and a chuck key, which it's another thing that I really don't like about this machine is this chuck key. It's so small that there's not really a lot of room in there to work it for hitting stuff. So I need to get another one. Maybe it's with a longer shaft on it, T-shape. It's longer shaft, and get where you can get your hand out some and loosen that up. And that will drop your drill bit down. And then there's an Allen key setting set right here, and that will let the mortiser fall down. Then just kind of hold all that, pull this out, raise that up as far as it'll go, and bring it out like that. I didn't do that the last time when I took that one out. It was my fault. I just loosened up, wasn't thinking, and didn't catch it, and it fell and hit this. Now to put the other one back in, just put your drill bit up in it and feed that up through. And you'll have to align this up. You'll have to line your fence up with this, because there's no way by putting this in here that you can get it lined up direct, parallel with that fence. So we'll show you how I do that. Just eyeball it and get it as close as you can. And then to set the drill bit for the height needed, I will push it all the way up and then back it back off just a slight amount. And you may have to, and I say a slight amount, that could be anywhere from a 32nd to a 64th or whatever, depending upon your bit and mortising bit. But you may get it in there and get it tight. It'll listen. and then it would have to readjust it. But listen for it to sing. If it's singing and this bit is actually rubbing the inside of that, it's going to get hot. This metal and heat, that's not never a good combination. And actually that sounds pretty good. That little ticking, that's not enough. But if it was screaming right there, you would feel this right here. You would see it actually start to light up. That's actually pretty good. Now we can go ahead and put this cover back on. And this is what I do in order to line this fence up with this bit. If it's crooked, well, let's just try it out and just see. You'll see why you need this perfectly parallel with the mortise cutting bit, or the chisel actually. And this hold down, you don't want it resting right on your wood, but you do have to have this hold down, this piece here. It does have to set just hovering just right above your piece, and that way when you pull the chisel back up out of it after you've made your hole, it will hold this piece right here down and allow you to pull that chisel up. Otherwise, if you didn't have that on there, there's no way that you'll get that back out of that wood without something to forcefully hold it down while you use the torque that you've got from the arm to get the chisel back up out of it. And I put just enough that I can slide my workpiece in under it. And there is a depth stop, which is right here on this one. Just loosen that up and let that fall. And then you'll set, which this is just for demonstration purposes. We really don't care how deep it is. We're going to go roughly around 3/4 of an inch, 5/8 to 3/4, and then just with that all the way down, tighten that set screw back up, and then that's as far down as it will go. It will stop on you. Now remember, we haven't lined this fence up with the bit, and we purposely done that. We're going to drill a mortise and show you what it's like if it's out. It'd be my luck at this point when I'm trying to show this that it will have landed perfectly lined up, but I don't think it will. So let's give this a try. Actually, that chisel cut pretty good. But if you were making another one, let's just go right here. Because you would leave a little bit of material in between these holes. And then that way the bit has no opposing force on the other side, causing the bit to want to shift to one side or the other. But then you go back and take the center out of it. If you can see that is why you need that bit lined up perfectly with the fence. And we'll line it up and then do another one and show you how it looks. Now, depending upon what type of mortiser you have, it may set up different. This one has 2 locking screws, one on each side of the fence. I just loosen those up so that the fence will move. And I'll bring my bit down. And I will just push it forward, letting that fence float, and it will line up right with that fence. And once that, the adjustment is on the back of this that moves your fence in and out. Once that gets where it's straight with that bit, I will snug those back down so it doesn't move. And then I'll just roll the fence back out of the way, lift this back up, and finish tightening those down. And I don't put an excessive amount of force on these, but I do tighten them up good because I don't want this coming out of the line while I'm working. We'll do another one right beside this one and show you what having one straight, what it looks like and how it does. Now skipping and leaving a space in between them, that way it's not going to force my bit to one side or the other, and then go back and chop those out. Now you can see the difference, which I'm still, of course you want to always do this on test wood. You always want to run a test piece first, and I've got some, but you'll always have bit run out on one side or the other. This side right here is actually fairly straight, and I would go back with a chisel and straighten this right here up, but I'm still just a little bit out of line. I may have let it move when I was tightening these back down. I will do that again and make another one and hopefully get it good and straight this time. But it's the same process. And just like a router or a drill press, this doesn't have to be straight with like the front of the fence. It doesn't have to be, you know, you can pivot it either way. It's not going to hurt anything. What matters is that it's straight with that bit. And you can actually loosen that bit and twist it a little bit if you need to. But if you do it, the way I do it, I don't have any problems. Hopefully you won't either if you use this technique. But let's run another one and see how it does. That one was just a little bit off. It wasn't bad off, but it was a little bit off. And there's that one. That is much better. Actually, I got just a little bit of cleanup on that side, but that bit is running out over here, and that could be because of the damage that was done to it when I dropped it. It would still work in a pinch, but I may end up replacing the 3/8. Actually, I think I have another 3/8 inch bit, which I hardly ever use those. A lot of the stock that you use is going to be, or for me anyway, is going to be 3/4 inch, and I will make a 1/4 inch mortise and tenon for that, which would end up being a 1/3 and a 1/3 and a 1/3. Now on this mortiser, I don't know how long this bar is, probably 16 to 18 inches long, which gives you your torque. Some of the things that is wrong with this one, which are minor, is this right here, you're supposed to be able to pull it out and turn it to reset this to where you can set your starting point of your bar wherever you want it, which all the way up there where it's at right now is fine with me. That works fine. I've not had any issues. But as you can see, the handle is broke off of this this adjustable set screw on this adjustment. Another thing that's messed up on this one is this hydraulic arm that actually raises this back up, or helps take pressure off it when you bring it back up. That is shot. I have to actually manually raise this one back up when it's done, which is no big deal. It's no trouble to raise it back up, but I need to replace that. And I think what's messed this one right here up is they put it on there upside down. It's dried out inside, being put on there upside down. But it has the adjustment on the back that rotates the whole bed forward and back. It doesn't have an adjustable bed that will go left and right, only in and out from the bed. The only recommendations that I would make personally on getting a mortiser machine is, a lot of times if you're doing something like hard maple or oak, which is what that piece is, that is white oak that I was just cutting that mortise in, that's pretty tough wood. If you're doing pine or something like that, this one is a 1/2 horsepower. That is plenty enough power to work with softwoods, pine, basswood, things of that nature, cedar. But if you're doing something that's more dense, more hard, I would suggest to step up to at least a 3/4 horsepower. And the reason being is, when you're drilling down into that wood, that hard, dense wood, you need that drill bit to have the power and the RPMs to be able to pull that debris out, your chippings out, and get them out of the way. Otherwise, you're going to build up heat. And you can, and I have had that happen a time or two with this one, and you have to shut it off real quick. It will pull shavings up in there and stop feeding them out, and start to build up heat, or lock up the bit, one or the other, and you have to flip it off real quick, take it out and clean that out, and then reset. So I say all that to say, this one's a 1/2 horsepower. It works fine in most applications, but especially with the larger bits, it seems to work better with the larger bits than it does with a 1/4 inch. When you drop down to something as small as a 1/4 inch, it doesn't spin fast enough, and it doesn't have the torque to pull the chips up through it and out the extraction port on the front of the bit. So I would recommend going with a at least 3/4, at least a 3/4 horsepower. This one does have on the back of it a place to store your spare chisels. Some of them may not have that, but that would not be, if you ever purchase one that doesn't have it, I don't think that would be something that would be too hard to make one that will hold as many chisels as you wanted to buy. And also with this one, when I first got it, which the reason why I bought this one, I was offered it and got such a good deal on it, I could not turn it down. So, but if I was going to go buy one, I would step up to a 3/4 horse. But starting out, if you will get you and if you buy new, most of them, to my understanding, will come with at least 3 hollow chisels, and a 1/4, 3/8, and a 1/2 inch. If you've got those, more than likely that will suffice for any and all of your needs when making the mortises. But one thing that I found with this one when I first got it, and you have to kind of play around with it in order to get that balance just right with this one. Now, I don't know about others because I have not operated others. This has been the only one that I have ever owned. I used to beat my mortises out with either a forcing bit and then clean that up, or cut them completely out with chisels, and it took a long time. This has been a big blessing to me. But when I first got this thing, when I pull it down, I noticed that the whole thing would shift from my workpiece, not so much, not the base, but when I would be pulling it down, the torque that was on it was causing this to go sideways, and I was missing my mark. And what I found out that I needed to do, now that's, like I say, that's with this particular model. There's 2 screws on the back of this, and you have to, if you get them too tight, it will not hardly want to run up and down. You have to put a lot of force because you tighten it up. Let me show you that. There's 2 set screws, one here and one here, that kind of just clamp this against this pole that this thing rides up and down. And if one of them is loose, it will let it shift. If this one is loose, it's pulling the top. If this one is loose, it's pulling the bottom when you're going up and down with your chisel making your cuts. And you have to tighten those up till you take that play out of that. On this model anyway, you have to tighten those up till you get that play out of it, and find that balance of being able to work it up and down smoothly without it shifting on this pole. Now when I move this, it looks like this whole thing is shaking, and it is, because it's just setting clamped down to the top of a little Black & Decker Workmate table. It's not a real stable table, but when I'm pulling it down on a piece, even though the whole thing shakes, it's all going right together. I need to mount this more permanently, but for right now, that's what I've got. And you can see that Workmate. I just got 2 C-clamps run through this, clamping, holding it down, and this whole table will shake, will allow the whole thing to shake. But it's all going, whatever it moves, it's moving in unison. So you can, I've cut out a lot of mortises on this thing since I've had it, and it shaking on here has never been an issue with what it's doing between here and here. It's just the weakness of this table. I do need to get this thing mounted on a better workspace, just have not had the time. Anyway, I hope you found some of that information helpful. This one right here is a Permatrack brand. I'm completely unfamiliar. This is the first of that brand of any tool that I've ever owned. I've tried to look it up. Can't find anything on it, a user's manual or schematic for parts or anything. Can't find nothing on it. If anyone knows where I can get that out online or something other, send me a comment, shoot me a comment, and tell me where I can go and get it, so I I sure would appreciate that. But I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope if you're in the process of looking for one of these, something that I said or done helps you. If so, all the better. If you like the content, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And until next time, thanks for watching.